Welcome back. Now, the National Housing Policy 2023 outlines Namibia's approach to addressing housing challenges. It aims to promote affordability, quality and sustainable housing solutions. With the launch of the reviewed policy this morning, we are now joined in the studio by the Executive Director in the Ministry of Urban and Rural Development, Nghidinua Daniel. A very good evening to you, Mr. Daniel. Thank you so much for being here tonight.
Good evening and thank you for having me.
Well, first of all, congratulations with your launch. I believe that it was a success today.
Yeah, indeed it was. We had quite a good turnout. It was both physically and also online, thanks to NBC because of our partnership that provided for live streaming as well as live broadcasting, yes.
Great. So talk to us about the primary objectives of the National Housing Policy 2023.
Yeah, thank you. The policy has a number of objectives. The overarching objective and goal is to ensure that we have a coordinated approach, which is informed by one, that whatever we do is affordable to the people for which we want to provide housing. But at the same time, we must also take cognizance of innovations. We cannot be doing things business as usual. So that's one. The other one is innovation. And the last one is the element of principle of sustainability, that whatever we do, it must be sustainable, both for the government as well as for the target community.
So the policy indicates that it effectively aims to provide adequate housing and sanitation for over 300,000 households. What are the measures that are put in place to address this?
Yeah, the 300,000 is the current backlog that we, in terms of the numbers that we have. But as you are aware, we have, the country through the Namibia Statistics Agency have concluded the population and housing census.
Yes.
And it's important that we recognize the inclusion, of housing as part of the census. Is exactly to make sure that we have reliable information on the number of our citizens that are still in need of housing. So the current backlog, without the current statistics, stands around 300,000. Now, there's a number of interventions. Overall, the policy provides for 8 strategic goals. And under each of those strategic goals, then we have specific interventions which are detailed in the implementation action plan.
Right.
And, they range from we have one that is talking about unlocking housing opportunities. Here we are talking about to say, how do we ensure that our strategies in addressing access to housing is very inclusive? So one of those strategies is that we need to unlock opportunities. It's also quite a big departure from what we used to do, in the sense that we tend to measure houses in terms of the number, the units of houses constructed. But we are saying that we need to be very inclusive and much more innovative, in the sense that some people only need to be given access to a serviced piece of land, and he or she can build their own houses. So we are measuring housing opportunities. That is one. The other one is also to say we need to make sure that the little resources that is available to government for the provision of housing is also provided in a manner that is sustainable, and only it should be provided to the most needy of the society, and then the rest of us will be able to look for that. That's one strategy. Yes. The other strategy is also the one that is saying, it's not like we are starting from zero.
Yes.
We already have a number of initiatives that we have been implementing over the years. Since 1992, we have been having the Build Together program, which is implemented through regional councils and local authorities. We also have been providing grant funding to the community-led organizations such as the Shack Dwellers Federation of Namibia. Then we have the role of NHE, and then the private sector through PPPs and also direct investment have been doing that. So through the policy, we are saying all these actions need to be better coordinated so that there's no duplications, and for us to be able to have a better impact. That is one of the strategies. The other one is also to say, how do we address this challenge of housing in the country, and also access to land, service land for one? We cannot only rely on resources and efforts from government. there's a big role for the private sector, whether it's banks or it's contractors, is professional bodies. And we have provided in the law to say, how do we get the private sector to be much more involved and to come and to be incentivized to be able to also be catering for the most needy segment, which is the ultra low and the low income. So the policy provides for the development of an incentive scheme, which can also catalyze. In that area also we are saying, it's not only the Namibians who are in urban areas that are in need of housing. Why do we have a problem of urbanization and informal settlements in urban areas? Because of the rural-urban migration. And the question is, how do we, what is causing that? And one of those is the lack of similar benefits and amenities in rural areas. So the policy deliberately also provides for incentives and support to rural housing, which is a new departure from what we are doing. Right. That is one. So, and the other policy is the one that is saying we cannot be only measuring housing and providing houses based on the conventional way that we have always been doing things. It must be brick and mortar. Who says it should only be that? Yeah. In rural areas, we have access to other material. Okay, we can make, we can use thatch, and we live decently in those. So the law provides that we should also be looking at even traditional materials. We should also be open to alternative building materials as well, as much as they offer the same durability, the same comfort, privacy, and also the safety for the, for our people. So that is just a summary of, of the key objectives that are outlined in the policy.
Right. Now, the policy also goes further on to state that 230,000 families across Namibia are living in shacks. How does the policy now aim at addressing that issue of especially informal settlements, so that people can stop living in such conditions? Right.
We have recognized to say quite a large number of our people are living in informal settlements. And you would recall, may so rest in peace, the late president has declared the poor living conditions in informal settlements as a humanitarian crisis that require urgent action from government. Right. And such policy pronunciations have really informed the agency and the measures that we have provided for in the housing policy. And one of the strategies, so there are a number of pillars that that inform the policy. One of them is the one that recognizes to say where we have virgin land that we can develop from scratch, we call that greenfield. Then we will make sure that as a government we provide grant funding to regional councils and local authorities so that they proactively provide services. Every inch of the land need to be planned. And once it's planned, zoned out, then also we plan for the services. That is greenfield. But we also recognize that in most of the, most of the regions and areas, and especially in urban areas, we have what we call brownfield. These are areas that are already populated. You have people that are living, on that. And that's where, areas such as what we call informal settlements then fall within that category. And that has really, we have deliberate measures that we have come up with, which one starts with the profiling of the people. And one of the sources that is informing us, we have a partnership with the Namibia Statistics Agency where we have developed what we call the Namibia Housing Information System, which is, which system is being implemented through regional council and local authorities. And it tends, it provides for capturing data on all the residents in terms of who needs a piece of land, what type of land can they afford based on their affordability, who needs a house, and what we call waiting lists. Because in every local authority we have encouraged and we have master waiting lists of all the people that would have applied for a piece of land or for a house. And with that, then we are able also on the ground, if you look at in Windhoek, for instance, they have also an informal settlement upgrading structure, strategy. And one of the beginning processes is the one of profiling the people that are in the informal settlement, so that you know who is out there and what is their condition. What are they able to afford to have? Do they have, if they were to be given a chance to acquire a piece of land affordably, will they be able to afford? If not, then there are also other measures that are in place. In Windhoek, for instance, they have a system of pre-allocation, which is where a right is given to somebody who is living on a piece of land without a title. okay? But the city now says you will not be harassed, or being evicted. We are recognizing you that you are on this piece of land, and while we are working on the formal process of registering and conferring you the tenure and ownership, we are saying you have the right to be on that piece of land, and you have the rights almost like somebody who have the freehold. That's one.
I'm actually glad that you are mentioning that, because a lot of times the main issue is affordability. A lot of people claim that they live in informal settlements because of the affordability.
And that's very important. And,
yes.
and one of the principles of the policy is collaboration.
Right.
And we will only be able to deal with the challenge that we are having of access to service land as well as housing if we are open to each other, both government and then even the target community and the other stakeholders, so that if you truly want to address that problem, then we have to work in the, with a sense of transparency. Mm-hmm. And that's why truly we should make sure that, because through the targeted interventions, we want to make sure that whatever little resources are available, they go to where they are needed the most. Yes. I can afford a bond with a bank. Mm. I should not be a burden to the government. And that is truly what is there. So you have the issue of access to land, because housing is at the end of the value chain.
Yes. In
between here, you will have the process of creating or coming up just with what we call an EV or a plot. Mm. And it's a whole process that starts with the planning of the area, and then also zoning to say this area is for what land use. And so once we deal with the issue of tenure security, then the next one is also then to find out, then to say who can afford and who cannot afford. And the policy provides that we are going to develop an incentive scheme with a number of qualification requirements.
Right.
Okay, and that is to be to help local authorities, and there is also one especially for what we call the ultra low income, right, people who are really at the bottom, who even if you were to discount the cost of land and housing, they will have a challenge with what we call rates and taxes.
Right.
Okay, so most of people are losing their houses because they owe the local authorities for the provision of water, the basic water and sewer and electricity. Mm-hmm. And one of the measures is that we are moving away from the conventional metering systems, right, and we are now going for for prepaid meters, so that you buy and only what you can afford, and you will also be able to manage it so that you don't consume, and at the end of the process, the bill comes, you're not able to, to pay for it. So,
and just on that issue, I mean,
right,
what percentage of household income is considered affordable for housing costs according to the policy?
Well, affordability in terms of the general definition, it depends on the income.
Right.
Yeah, the income group. And so I could, for instance, afford a house of, in a million.
Yeah.
That's affordable to me based on my income.
Right.
But for somebody, and that's where we have the most backlog. The backlog in housing, which is about 62% of our people who fall in that, are people who earn from $1 to $5,000. They make up 62% of that 300,000 that we were talking about.
Right.
And if you look at the income of those people, and then you discount the 30%, which by law is to say you cannot spend your gross income more than 30% of it on a house. Otherwise, you'll be left with nothing.
Right.
And when you apply that to the income of the ultra low group, people in that, $1 to 5,000, they will only be able to pay about 460 Namibian dollars. And the only house that they can afford is a house which is less than 60,000 Namibian dollars. Where will you get a house in the market for 60,000 Namibian dollars? The only provider of such affordable housing is only the Shack Dwellers Federation.
Right.
But they can only do so much.
Exactly.
So that's a particular group that we are saying we are going to have deliberate support in terms of incentives for them, to help them in terms of access to the land, that the land is really affordable to them in the first place, right, but also at the level of the house, and also rates and taxes. But that incentive system is to be developed. Now that we have launched the policy, we are now it's all system go for us to put all the other mechanisms in place.
Great. So let's go back to how the policy balances the housing development between urban centers and rural areas.
Yeah, it's a very inclusive approach. We are saying that we want every Namibian to have a decent roof over their head, irrespective of where you live. And we are really calling out to say, government, for one, government it's one of those governments, I think not only Africa, but globally, that is really, has come out to provide, for housing for its employees. Right. So we have the home owners scheme for government employees, and government is providing that. Now, the policy has recognized that that scheme is largely applicable in urban areas, because it's only in urban areas that you can get a title and ownership of a piece of land. In rural areas, you can only lease. We only have 99-year lease. Right. But the banks and the financial institutions would not give you a mortgage based on that lease. Okay? So the policy is providing that government should consider to lead by example, by extending wholesome also to apply, in the rural areas where government employees are. So that is one. The other one is also to say where people want to build their houses, and you would see the reality is that most of us have come to urban areas, and we are working in urban areas. If you will, we are migrant workers. I'm here, but then most likely when I go on retirement, I will go and retire back to my village.
Exactly.
So I need to have, a place where I can live the same way that I'm living here. So there's a provision also in the law here that we can also provide support, in terms of a subsidy to building materials for people that are building also in rural areas. Right. So we are looking at supporting, Namibians to have decent housing, not only in urban, but also in rural areas.
Now, let's talk about the strategies that are proposed in the policy to manage urban growth sustainability. Right.
The strategies, as I said, we have eight strategic objectives, and under each of those objectives, we have a number of strategies. I've started with the first one, that is to unlock housing opportunities.
Right.
And it starts off with us operationalizing what we call the Namibia housing system, information system, which we have developed in-house with the NSA, and is being managed already. We are already piloting it, where local authorities are already inputting information. We have 4 modules. The first module is the one that captures all the land that is available in a local authority.
Right.
Which one is for residential, which one is for business, which one is for public, and which one is for everything. And with that information, then there will be a public portal where members of the public will be able to know, just by sitting wherever they are sitting, they will be able to know how much land and what type of land is available in Windhoek. If that information, as we are busy now populating it through local authorities, if that system becomes live. It also captures, also in terms of housing stock. We are able to see, as a government and local authorities, how much properties do we have? Okay, so that then it also helps even local authorities to be able also to generate income. At the same time, it also helps now for us to know where is housing available and where do we have a shortage, and what type of housing is available. And that's, under that housing stock, that's where we have the issue of the waiting list. So we are able to know how many people in Windhoek are in need of houses, what type of houses do they want, and what can they afford. And then the third module has to do then also with informal settlement, a very particular deliberate one. We want to be measuring what is the state and extent of informal settlements in the country, and also what are we doing, and what is the difference that we are truly making. That's one. So, and one of the other strategies is really the one we are saying we need to provide housing, but housing comes with implications on the environment. So there is also a provision for environmental sustainability and innovation. One of them is to say land is finite. And we are used to building going horizontal. And we are saying, what about the future generations? You know, are they going to have land at all left if we only go build like that?
Yeah.
Why can't we go up?
Up, yeah.
So there's a provision that we look at, you know, what we call densification. The other one is also a provision for mixed development, that you can have, you know, a development that provides for residential, but also around there, also other uses besides residential. Okay? And we have also provided, as we said, for a range also of typologies or the types of houses that based on the need, you know. One of them, you'll see to the northwestern side of Windhoek, there's Ongos Valley Development.
Right.
And they have a concept of rent to own. We are recognizing to say the young graduates, they cannot outrightly right from the beginning just jump into buying and owning a property. They want to move in a phased way, incremental way, through maybe starting off by renting. Right. So we are also saying, you know, if that is being done by private developers, government should do the same. Government, you will see government has flats, for instance, but those flats were constructed, I think, many, many years back, most of them before independence. And government employees, you know, are making use of that. And we want to see more, you know, such rental housing being developed by the central government as well as by local authorities, so that then we'll be able to have a range of products that are provided to meet the different needs of our people.
Impressive. Now, I just want to know about the issue of power or the energy generation. I mean, are there going to be provisions made for some people to use solar energy, for example, whereas, you know, because energy is very expensive, now that you also mentioned that people will be able to use different building materials. So what about different energy sources? We
need energy, and as a country generally, we are exploring different ways to expand our energy sources, you know, production and all that through the Ministry of Mines and Energy. And already there is a cabinet directive, you know, in terms of the energizing of government buildings to say we should, to the extent possible, you know, go solar. Right. And most of a number of houses that we have built, even under the mass housing, we have made sure that we have provided for solar, you know, water heating, and also we are also increasingly looking at the viability of solar energy in general. So the issue of solar and energy efficiency is one of the cornerstones, you know, that is emphasized in the policy.
Well, Mr. Daniel, let me just ask you to just wrap up our conversation. I mean, is there something very critical that you would like to highlight just to end our conversation for this evening? Of course, we can go on all night because this is a very interesting topic, of course, but let's just wrap up.
Yes, no, thank you. You know, our emphasis and our call is really to say we can make a difference. This is a national challenge, but which we also believe that with collective action and also joint investment, the call in the policy is to say government is coming. Government has already, you know, put itself forward, and we are calling on all the other stakeholders, starting with the community itself. We want a people-centered, community-driven participatory approach to the issue of access to service land and housing. And we are saying there's a big role for non-state actors, community-based organizations, shack dwellers federations, and the others, the banks. All this, the financial implications of all this is very huge, which cannot be left to government.
Right.
And that's why we are calling on all partners, and we are very happy that already we have, even in development financial institutions such as Development Bank of Namibia, they are already really, you know, knocking at our doors to say, what can we do? And we want to see all hands on deck. Right. So even the media has a role there, and the academia and everybody. So we are very excited, and we are starting the process of ramping up and popularizing, you know, what the policy provides for and what is the role of each of the stakeholders. And today was just the beginning, and we are going to continue with that engagement. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time, sir. We really appreciate it, and we thank you very much for coming to share that very positive information with us tonight.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Well, there you have it. Of course, the ED Executive Director in the Ministry of Urban and Rural Development, that's Nghidinua Daniel, who has been talking to us about the National Housing Policy 2023 that was launched earlier today. Well,